Hello, friends. Do you have one of these piles of, do you have one of these cars? This is a 2008 Jeep Compass, and I've got wheel bearing noise. And essentially, because I have wheel bearing noise, I'm gonna I'm gonna tear apart this entire suspension, put all new in because it has a bad wheel bearing. Because we can't just make like simple wheel hubs that you could just unbolt, off and on. You got to actually press out the bearing, and I don't want to do that. And since I know the front end of this car actually has been repaired before, but it's making creaking noises, and I think one of the struts are starting to blow out again on this side, and I think my ball joints have play, so it's time to just put new in. And I might even have to put in new CV shafts. Depends on how rusty it is. If I can even, get the nut off. Well, yeah. I've had my battles with this car. Look, it's actually a pretty good car. We're just using it as kind of like a carryover vehicle till we can get something a little newer. But the girlfriend likes it. It gets really good gas mileage. Just that CVT trans is, well, it's working for now. I'm going to go knock on some wood. This fake wood looks pretty good. Anyway, it's actually worth putting $500 to $700 into just because you know what new cars go for nowadays. So if you have one of these, maybe this video will help you. I don't know. I'm just going to be going through it. I've never taken the front end apart before. I took apart the rear end. That was fun. Completely redid that all new subframe and everything in the back. But now it's time for the front end. So if you got one of these, maybe it'll help you. Maybe it won't. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe just here for the entertainment value. That's cool too. But hey, let's begin doing this. All right, hey, if you're new to the channel, I mainly work on this type of stuff. This is my budget AMC drag car. I'm an AMC guy. Hey, I forgot I took down my AMC banner I had right here. I'm in the process of cleaning my shop. All right, without getting too long-winded. I mainly work on this stuff here. It's what I love to do. Actually, just got done rebuilding the suspension here on this front side here. I think the video that's out now, that just shows me taking this apart. I don't have the video out for that side yet of actually putting it back together, but this video will probably come out before that is. So anyway, here's the compass, Patriot compass. They're actually the same exact underneath. They're all the same suspension, all the same, just different sheet metal, a couple different parts and pieces here and there. So this will all work for a 2007 to 17 Compass Patriot. I think it should actually work for a Dodge Caliper 07 to 17. I'm not sure about 2007 though, 100%, because from what I hear, the bearings are not serviceable, or the hubs are not serviceable or something like that. So essentially what you can do is you can buy these bearings already pre-pressed into a hub, and you can just buy the knuckle and just change out the knuckle. And I think the 07 caliber, you can't do that. So heads up. So this will work for 07 to 17 Compass Patriot. And from what I understand, 08 to 17 Dodge Caliber. So with that said, I'm gonna cut off my babbling here, and we're gonna dive in. Let's go. So I set the jack stands on the frame itself, because otherwise if I put it on the front subframe, I probably won't be able to really get in here and get apart the stuff that I need. Okay, so tires are off now, and we get in here, and my goal for me today was to kind of check out the condition of the CV shaft, you know, the threads, the nut, and this is what I was worried about, because I fought so hard in the rear when I redid the entire rear end of this car. I could not save the rear CV shafts because the nut was rusted so bad. There was literally not even a nut left. It was so bad. And then, well, I eventually actually did get the nut off. I actually had to cut it. I cut it off, but I couldn't save the threads. I don't think the CV shafts were necessarily bad. I couldn't save them in the rear. So I ended up having to buy new ones, which threw the budget completely out, because new CV shafts are, well, pretty expensive. So I'd be willing to bet someone has replaced these. This is what I was worried about, because if they were like this in the front, well, you know, we're going to be putting in CV shafts, and that jacks the price up. And the cheapest I could find was on where I got my parts now. I got them from 1A Auto, and a left and right set was $200, probably from China or whatever, but I'm sure they'd work for what we're trying to do with this car. This side looks to be, I can definitely tell if someone's been in here before with this expert cotter pin job. But the main reason why I couldn't reuse the backs is because there was no place to put a cotter pin in here. I couldn't even drill it out. I kept dulling all my drill bits. I couldn't really, there was nothing left of the threads. So in the back, that was unfortunate situation, but I had to drop a pretty penny. But these ones, for the most part, look like I can probably get away with reusing them. I'll have to check the boots. And they're not, as far as I know, they're not clunking. They're not making any weird noises. I would really hate going in here and having to do what I'm going to do, all this work, and then, well, they're bad again. That would kind of suck. But it is what it is. And yeah, someone has been in here. They definitely replaced the front cross, or what's not a cross member, what is this thing called? Subframe. Because I put in a new rear one, and I could definitely tell someone put a new front one in here. And they put in new control arms, they put in new struts, but she's squeaking again. This car is got a terrible, when you hit a bump, it is kind of like a clunk, and then it's also like a squeak. And I looked on the top. I'll have to pop the hood here and I could show you. There is some weeping coming from the top of the strut, so I don't know how long these struts have been in here, but for sure this one's going bad already on the driver's side. So I mean, I'm not gonna just replace one and this one's gonna give out in 5 minutes, so you have to excuse the heater. That's how I stay alive in the wintertime. But as far as I know, I'm pretty sure my wheel hub, or my wheel bearing on the driver's side, is my problem. And I've seen some guys on YouTube, they press them out. You know, I could do that too, but why would I want to waste all my time doing that when they sell a knuckle from the top here? It just bolts on. I mean, it's a knuckle with the bearing in it. Why would I want to waste my time doing anything else? And I could just put some new fresh parts. And my alignment guy told me after I did the rear, he said my ball joints have some place, so let's get in here and let's fix it the right way. Just put all new parts in. So, like I said, my goal today is to see if I can get these nuts off while I'm waiting for the parts to show up. And this one might be the one that gives us the most grief, But then again, if I have to replace one CV shaft, I'm not, I'm gonna do the other one. So either that nut's coming off or it's coming off. I'm using it or I'm not using it. We'll find out. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw this before. How do you like my kitty litter box? I tried driving over it with my car once. That was pretty cool. Well, the impact is definitely the hot ticket. And now I'm deaf. Cool. There we go. Nice new-ish nut. So if anything, I'd like to get away with not having to replace CV shafts. That'd be cool. I wonder if I even need any heat. I wonder if I just try hit it once. This looks pretty, it looks pretty good. Oh yeah. I mean, that wasn't even tight. I mean, I don't even think that was torqued at all. And look at that, it even moves nicely in there. So this side is perfect. I don't see any reason. The boots look good. So as far as the passenger side, I like it. Now we gotta try to get over to the driver's side and see if that side comes apart. Well. Oh. Yep, the impact is definitely the way to go. Nice cotter pin. This thing's gorgeous. Perfect job. I love it. I love it. Well, boy. Hoo-hoo. Oh, Nelly. So as I get you in close here, block some of the light, you can kind of just see how rusty this one is. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to save this one, but gosh darn it, we're gonna try. Holy crap, I cannot believe that came apart. Haha! Victory! Victory! Alright, enough yelling. Does that move in there? It does. Haha! Well, that is what I was most worried about. And wow. That is victory. So that means for me, I am not going to be buying CV shafts because I'm just going to reuse these. Boots are nice and pliable. I mean, I don't remember any clunking going on, but if I have to change them, at least I know everything will be brand new here. So it should be pretty simple if that's the case. Cool. Well, now for me, I just got to wait for my parts to come. But for you, it'll be in the next transition. All right, so before I get into the actual work, one more thing I wanted to make sure I touched on. Well, ran into a problem. I wanted to basically, do everything on this side off camera, just while I'm still waiting for parts. I was gonna just completely disassemble and reassemble this side, and then come over to this side and, show the process on camera, because basically what's on one side is, you know, just basically mirror image, do the same thing. Well, I ran into a snag while trying to get this side apart, and I figured it was worth mentioning because this is something that anybody can run into. And as you see here, I completely butchered this, but this is all getting replaced anyway. This is the brake dust shield. I tried getting the wheel speed sensor out, and yeah, that's not good. So you could probably bet on that nothing's going to go your way, and you might end up replacing different parts or whatever, but looks like I'm going to be buying a wheel speed sensor that, from what it looks like, it kind of looks like it bolts here, and it bolts up here, and then it looks like it comes up inside through that grommet. So anyway, I just ordered mine. I ordered mine from O'Reilly. $50, so there's an added expense. Was not anticipating, but well, now I need it. But I was wondering if I had to maybe worry about the other side, so I quickly came over here, and this side came out just fine. So this is what it's supposed to look like. 10mm bolt. I'll show you where that bolt is. That's where it goes, right there, right in that hole. I don't know, this one popped out super easy. So, well, I guess I only got to replace one. It's better than two. Anyway, when the parts come in, I'm going to do that side off camera, and then we'll be getting into this side. Finally, got my parts in the mail. Got new struts, the new knuckles with the bearings already installed, and lower control arms. And also what's kind of nice, they came with a new nut, washer, and the lock ring. So yeah, not bad. These are TRQ brand. Obviously rather cheap, but exactly perfect for what we're trying to get out of this car. So I think everything here, I think I paid $500 for. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it's going to be much cheaper, especially with me doing all the labor. So with that said, I'm going to start putting all the stuff in. I think I'm going to, like I said before, I'm going to do the driver's side off camera, and then we'll do the passenger side together. Here we go. Driver's side complete. But of course, not without a few hitches, a few speed bumps. So I remember I mentioned I busted off the wheel speed sensor on this side, and luckily on the other side it came apart. So yeah, that was the one. I had to buy a freaking brand new wheel speed sensor. And then of course, one more thing to add to that on this side. I couldn't get my sway bar link off. It was so rusty, and it just, well, I mean, maybe if I tried a little bit harder, maybe I would have got it off, but it was junk anyway. And you'll see what I mean right here. So the boot was completely ripped open. This thing was junk. I did manage to actually get this one side turning. The other side, maybe I tried a little harder, maybe I would have got it. But once I saw this, I just said, nope, don't care. And I just cut off the bolt. And so yeah, you might have to plan for things that you don't necessarily want to, well, buy. But of course, that's all part of this game. Once you replace one thing breaks, or you're in there, you see something else that should be replaced, yada yada. And yeah, eventually you're spending, you know, it was $35 a piece for these sway bar links, so that's $70 for those, $50 for the this wheel speed sensor. I mean, really, the only thing that was going on here was really technically my wheel bearing was bad. You know, I'm about $700 into this project. This is the stuff that I removed, and I could tell these have been replaced, you know, probably rather recently. And I don't think I should be able to do this. Nice. So, you know, cheap junk parts. I guess technically I'm putting in some hopefully cheap not junk parts. But as far as what we need this car to do, it should be just fine. And of course, now we're going to move to the passenger side. And we're going to do that together. So driver's side's done. Gonna start on the passenger side, and we'll do it together. Here we go. Well, after we had our learning experience on the driver's side, let's see if we can't bring that knowledge over here to the passenger side. So, all right. Everything is taken off. Got the rotor off already and the caliper that I showed previously. And I think we're gonna start. I think I want to get the tie rod end off. So I got the wheel cranked all the way to the driver's side. And I know these can be a pain if the stud starts spinning. Well, then you got to find a way to grab it and hold on to it. I didn't have a problem on the driver's side. I actually just, just right off. So I might have got lucky on the driver's side. We will see how lucky I get on the passenger side. 18 millimeter. I guess I'm pretty lucky. And as you can kind of see, the stud is rather tall, and I wanted to use like a tie rod end remover, and the ones that I have are not this big. So what I ended up doing on the other side is I just gently kind of heated this up a little bit with a torch, and I just gave her one good whack, and it did fall through. So we'll give that a shot again. See if I can get lucky twice in a row. Hit it with some coil again. Perfect. Haha. All right, next thing I want to take off is the sway bar end link. And this is where on the last time I did this on the driver's side, it got a little bit, well, tricky. Because this little stud likes to spin. And there's a little Allen key hole in the center there. It's supposed to be 5 mil. But of course this thing is going to be really rusty. And it might even come down to me again, well, cutting that off. Just like I had to do on the other side. Let's get some of these attachments off. So on the side of the strut here is the wheel speed sensor mount, or it's mounted to it, and also the bracket for the brake hose is mounted to the strut. I think I like that idea better. Now I got to get this plastic pin out of here. Get this off of here. And of course that's going to break, but that's okay. Alright, can we get this out of the way? Can this go over here? Can it just move? Can you do something else besides be in the way? And now we'll start tackling the knuckle. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just do this. Because I don't give a crap about my, my brake dust shield. This is all getting replaced anyway. Just so I can see a little better in here. Maybe in your case, you might not want to do that if you're not, or if you're going to be keeping these. But in my case, I don't give two craps. I might not need heat. We'll see if they just come right off. 21 millimeter. Awesome. And there's actually some splines on the bolt, so they should hold themselves in place. You shouldn't need to hold the other side. So they should just come right off. Thread the nut back on just a little bit so I can pound them out. And this is where if this isn't free, you have to probably gonna have to use some type of punch or a hammer of some sort, air hammer, to get this unstuck. Whereas mine, luckily, just pushes right through. So in your case, if it's rusted in there, that could be a rather big job. All right, and now mine's actually stuck now, so I might have to end up getting a punch. I got a socket extension here. I'm gonna see if that'll help and be enough. There we go. I'll set him aside. So no matter what, I'm gonna need this bolt, so I'm gonna have to get that out of there. 15 millimeter on the head side, and the nut is 18. Now we're gonna use the impact on this side just to get her spinning. Okay, I'm gonna try to tap it out. Awesome. I'm gonna try to spread this open a bit. Pry bar. And then try to get her off. Knuckle disassembly complete. We're going to turn our attention to the lower control arm next. This is the back bolt, which there is a nut up on the top. If I can get my wrench on it. All right, there we go. And this is 21 millimeter on both sides. Okay, come on. So I'd like to turn my attention to the front, but however, I got this this cover is going to be in the way. It also looks like I'm missing a clip. I only got one holding this on. And this one that's on there is definitely doing its job. All right, that's cool. I can just break it. That'll work too. Slide that down. This should also be a 21 mil. And it's captured, the nut is captured inside of the frame, the subframe, so we can just take her right off. And I think we should be able to pull it right out, just like a boomerang. The lower control arm on this side actually has this bushing still attached, so this is actually still good. However, I know my ball joint, my alignment guy told me the last time that the right side ball joint was shot. And the left side had the problem with the rear hockey puck bushing. So they're both basically junk. And while I'm still down here, I might as well mess around with getting off the remainder of this sway bar link. Not even gonna mess around trying to get it off, we're just gonna cut her off. Finally. So unfortunately I got a little bit of a couple gouges here, but what are you gonna do? It'll be fine. And everything is apart as far as the lower half of the suspension goes. Now we got to get the upper half, which is literally just this shock and, well, it's a strut, not a shock. Strut assembly. And everything is disconnected from that. This is just what's left of the sway bar, our sway bar link, which we don't care about. 3 nuts up on the top inside the engine bay, and this will fall right out. Of course, this one has to be in a spot can't get with the power ratchet. So I put these 2 nuts back on. As soon as I loosen this, he's gonna drop down. And now we can commence normal procedure. Well, that is everything as far as removal. That's what we're left with. CV shaft, good to go. Steering tie rod. Sway bar. We're ready to put stuff back in. And we're gonna start pretty much in the exact same order. Reverse. Put the strut in, lower control arm, and then the knuckle. All right, one strut. Coming up. The nuts on the top get torqued down to 35 foot-pounds. Time for the lower control arm. And if I remember right, I believe I gotta move you out of the way for a second here. I'm gonna slide in the rear first. Like so. There we go. And then the front is, well, kind of in there at the moment. But I remember what I had to do on the other side is I used one of these bolts. I used this bolt here. All right, I had to do a double take because they must have, whoever owned this car before me must have, you know, changed some bolts around. But anyway, this one here has like this little, it's like a guider tool for when you're putting these bolts in. It'll kind of help center the hole. So what I kind of did was I used this bolt for both the rear and the front. So when I kind of got them somewhat in place, I just kind of started jamming this in there, and this bolt helped it get aligned into the holes. And I can kind of see this bolt hole is very close. It is very close. Come back a little more. Easier said than done. That one's lined up. Alright, so I'd like to use this bolt again. So whoever owned this car before me actually definitely changed bolts. Yeah, I definitely think they had them backwards now that I think of it. So I think this one's actually supposed to go in the front. That's probably why there was so much sticking up, because this bolt is actually longer. So I used it to get it lined up, and now this one should slide right in. Almost. Come on. There we go. So yeah, they had these bolt holes in the wrong spot. All right, so that one's in. Now let's work on the front one. All right, so now we got you on the front side. And one thing before I go any further, forgot to mention, yeah, definitely put anti-seize on these bolts like I had previously kind of harped on. I forgot to do that on the back one, so I quickly took that out, put some anti-seize on it, and put her back in. So definitely practice what you preach is what I can learn from that one. So anyway, from all that blabbering before, just to tell you about this bolt, this longer one with this guider tool on the end. Yeah, this is the front bolt because it's ever so slightly a little bit longer, and the captured nut is on the inside of the frame, subframe. So that's what this is for, and that's why I used it on the back one to help to get the back one lined up. So the shorter one goes on the back, and the longer one with the little guider tool goes on the front here. All right, see if we can pound up a little bit here. Now I'm going to pound on the end, which is right here. I'm going to pound here, try to get it in to the hole, into the socket. Well, it looks pretty good. torque spec for the rear bolt is 135 foot-pounds. Okay. And now for the front control arm bolt, I looked up online torque specs for these things, and a little bit of a note here. So there's two different torque specs based on the year of the Compass or Patriot. So any car built up to August 1st of 2008, the torque spec is 100 foot-pounds. Anything built after August 1st of 2008, it is 118. I looked at mine on the door of this car, and it was built of March 1st, or March of 2008, so that means this one is 100 foot-pounds, not 118. So we're going to set my torque wrench to 100 and snug her down. Getting down to the nitty-gritty here. Time to put on the knuckle. Get rid of this boot that covers the lower ball joint. Put a little NICs on everything. Okay, finally. All right, bolt is on. For the lower ball joint, put the nut on. $60 foot-pounds. So because those bolts are splined, they should hold on the other side. So you shouldn't have to hold them in place when you're zapping them back in. Torque spec for these nuts here, 81 foot-pounds. Let's put the tie rod end back in place. Of course, that's just going to spin. So I'm going to have to find a way to hold that in place. The torque spec for this is actually 97 foot-pounds, but I basically know when my elbow pops, that's how I know I hit 97, and my elbow just popped, so torqued. All right, since we're over here, let's put the speed sensor back in. Right there. Our cute little bolt. Don't have to give her too much thrust. Good enough. I think the next order of business is let's get the sway bar link back in place. And the bottom side I'll have to do by hand. So what's nice about it right now is these are not spinning, whereas these could actually spin, and then you're going to have to put a Allen key in there like I tried when I was taking them off. But I noticed on the other side, I could just tighten them right up. At least these new ones are nice and tight, and I didn't really have to worry about it. All right, let's put the rotor on. All right. And the caliper bracket bolts to the knuckle are torqued to 80 foot-pounds. All right, pretty much one of the last things left to do, minus the big hub nut here. Get this bracket back on. We're pretty much in business. I'll put this cover back up. I got some push pins I found in my junk drawer. We'll see if they can help us out here. I think that one's a winner. Well, I guess we're not using that one. We'll just use the bottom half of it. Good enough. All right, so now for probably the hardest part of the whole job, and that is putting on the nut for the hub. Put a little NICs on. The reason why I would suggest waiting for the last moment to do this is if you don't have something to hold this in place, it can be probably pretty hard. Maybe if you had someone in the car hold down the brake, it might work. Because you got to torque this nut down, and that's pretty important because that's going to determine whether or not your bearing is going to survive for a long period of time or not. So it's pretty critical this gets on to a, at least around the correct torque setting. And then after it's torqued, then you got to get this thing here to line up, which also can be easier said than done and may require it to be a little bit tighter than, even tighter than it's supposed to be, but that little bit extra one isn't going to hurt it. So anyway, we got the nut on here, and I got my humongous breaker bar that I'm going to use to wedge in here. I'm trying to remember how I did it on the other side. Yeah, I did it like this. So as you can see, that goes just on the ground there. And then this gets torqued to 180, I believe. And that is correct, 180 foot-pounds. All right. Now I got to see how we did as far as lining up our pin here. And one thing I also noticed is they give you a nice fresh pin, cotter pin, but I'm not sure if this is like a universal thing, but it does not fit, at least in my CV shafts. This does not fit. It's also supposed to have a spring on here, and I couldn't use it on the other side either, because that just made it that much harder to get the pin in there. So we ain't gonna worry about that. I'll have to get another pin, and actually the alignment is decently good, but I think we can get her a little better. I have to go just a little bit more. It's very, very, very close. That should work. There we go. Like so. I got the car back down on all fours now, and before I can really take her for a test drive, I saw one thing that sparked my attention. I found a line in here that was just about ready to blow, and I got her in my hand, so you can clearly see. I pretty much breathed on her, and she said, "Yep, I'm done," and started leaking literally as I literally touched it. So that had to get changed. This is for a power steering cooler, which is kind of dumb how it's set through here. There's like basically zero room to get in here and do anything, and I had to remove all the washer bottles, and yeah. Anyway, got her. So it's a high pressure fuel hose for now. That'll probably have to work for now or until forever, because I think that'll hold. Anyway, that's back together. Got to put the bottles and all that stuff, clean all this up, and then I'm going to take her for a test drive, and hopefully we'll find out that the wheel bearing issue, noise, sound, is no more. All right, let's take this thing for a ride. Got her running, checked for leaks, make sure all that was good for my power steering repair. Had a little bit of a scare. I started it up and it kind of made a knocking sound, but I think that was the power steering pump, I believe. Scared the crap out of me. Shut her off real quick and, well, then didn't want to restart. I think it got flooded with gas or something, but usually when you hear things like knocking, kind of is a little bit scary. Well, I hope this works. I hope the wheel bearing noise is taken care of, because if it's not, well, I guess we'll have more troubleshooting to do. We'll have to go from there. Well, we got her up to 45, and I'm not hearing anything. I think it's safe to say it was one of the two wheel bearings in the front. I'm not quite sure which one. Could have been left, could have been right. Kind of sounded like left, but not really sure. I can also tell the alignment is terrible. I'm kind of moving all over the road, so I'm really not going to drive very far. It's also really dark out and there's deer, but it's enough for me to know that the wheel bearing is fixed, and I have an appointment in a couple days, and I'll take this in for an alignment, and we'll give her back to my girlfriend. Hey, we had success. The compass is put back together. It's not sitting behind me, it's actually outside because it's nice and warm in here, and then I want to let the heat out. You know, I can sit outside. Anyway, car's done. It's put back together. No more wheel bearing noise. Kind of stupid that just to replace the wheel bearing, I had to do all of that. Timeout. I wanted to just add that. The reason why I say it is stupid to do all that is because someone had went through this car before. They put all these new, struts in. They put lower control arms and ball joints in, and they didn't last very long. So that's why I said it was kind of stupid that I had to do all that. Okay, back to my outro. But again, I guess the proper way is like pressing it out, and I don't want to do that. And this company, TRQ or whatever, Has this already pre-made knuckle, pre-assembled with the bearing in it and, you know, whatnot. No idea if TRQ is the way to go, but hey, for the price and for what we want to get out of that car, I think it's going to be just fine. I'll keep an eye on it, of course, as I always do with my vehicles. And of course, it's for my girlfriend, my fiance. Got to make sure she's driving safely. Of course, that means a lot to me to make sure she's taken care of. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. As you can tell, I really need to take a shower. I've been working pretty hard, pretty long on this. I got grease and oil in my hair. Yeah. Yep, shower is in order. And if you want to check out any of my other videos, I mainly work on my AMCs on the channel here. With of course every once in a while I sprinkle in some of the daily driver stuff like this compass. And technically it still is part of my channel because it is American made. You know, the VIN starts with a 1. So it is American made. Is it a classic? Not yet. Maybe. Just maybe in the future. We're a little early on that classic part. But if you are interested in seeing some of my other stuff, I mainly work on AMCs. I'm trying to build my budget drag car here. I think I mentioned that before. But thank you so much for watching. Hope this helps you out. And we'll AMC you later.